It's really not clear what you're rating, giving a star rating or a number. Is it acting? Is it how engaging it was? Is it about how it pushes the boundaries of what's been done in that genre before?
I've had experiences recently where I'm talking about a show that I thought was terrible to someone who worked on it.
Welcome to another episode of Cut to Reveal, the podcast where we talk about editing, post-production, films, and anything in between. As always, I am one of your hosts, Ricky, aka Ricardo, and with me, as usual, is Peter and Erwann.
Hey, so today we're talking about rating films and site reviews, review sites, or whatever, right? We're talking about why it matters and does it even matter how we rate films?
But before we start, and to help us with that, is British Film Editors members and 2025 Eddie Award nominee for his work on Slow Horses and friend of the podcast, Robert Frost.
Hello.
I did the thing.
It's nice to be back. I was very flattered that you asked me to come back, so clearly I did something right the first time.
Well, you're the only one who said yes.
That's not true. You are the first one I asked, and I'm so glad that you did ask. So
I like chatting movies, so I'm fine. I'm happy to be here.
The reason why we wanted you on this episode is, first of all, we did a great episode with you, a great interview, one of the best interviews we did, I think, on the show. So, dear listener, if you haven't watched or listened to that episode, check it out on our podcast. But the second one is we just wanted to bring down the average age and also bring up the average experience at the same time.
Sure, that makes sense. I'm always happy to bring down the age.
but also bring up the experience. So,
Sure. Cool. Well, I think I'm flattered. Thank you.
And by the way, it will feel like this episode is sponsored by Letterboxd, but it's not. Not yet, at least. The thing is that both Ricky and Erwann rate movies on Letterboxd, and I don't do it. And I have some reasons for that. And when we were talking about this, one of them said, why won't we do an episode about this and bring someone on to also share his perspective on it? I want to give you a short story about rating that we had also in our group, the three of us. So I made this short film, Yellow Ticket, that both Ricky and Erwann had seen. They kind of gave me feedback along the road and so on the edit. And one day I checked the watch page, this short film page on Letterboxd, and there is Erwann's rating of my short film.
Oh, God.
And it's 3 stars.
3 stars is okay.
It's okay, but...
Out of 5, right? We're not talking out of 10 stars. We're talking about 5.
But first of all, we're friends.
No,
I'm kidding.
I'm a professional.
That's a joke.
You've got integrity, at least.
Exactly.
But secondly, he hasn't seen the final version of the film, and he rated it.
Okay.
I didn't remember that at the time, to be honest.
I was like, Erwann, please watch it again. If you feel it's 2.5, just give it 2.5, but give it another watch. See its final form and then decide.
So that's called bullying.
Cyberbullying, in fact.
Could be. And he did, and he gave me a higher rating and will not go into it. I mean, he could do it for just because we're friends, or he really felt like that, but we will not check. I don't want to know what's the real answer to that. But that's the thing, that I have a few issues with ratings, and it doesn't mean that I don't do it at all. I do rate movies sometimes, but I have few issues, and I want to bring them one by one, and then hear your perspective on it. So that's the idea behind the whole thing. So my first issue with rating is that it's really not clear what you're rating when you're giving a star rating or a number to a film, right? Because it's like having a discussion without understanding what's the goal of discussion, what's what we're trying to agree on or whatever, right? So is the overall feeling something that you're rating? Is the theme of the film something that you're rating? Is it acting? Is it how engaging it was? Is it about how it pushes the boundaries of what's been done in that genre before, or something or stuff like that? So it's not clear to me what's being rated. That's my first issue with rating.
That makes sense. I think everyone, certainly on Letterboxd and sort of review sites that are sort of half sort of social media sites as well, where you're sort of following people that you know and people that you don't know, things like that. I think everyone's rating it based on different criteria, right? So it is. I think that is interesting. When I rate films, because yeah, I'm on Letterboxd, of course I am.
Are you like secretly on Letterboxd, or like do you show?
Yes, yes. As I started to realize that I was like a couple of people away from the films that I was rating, I was like, I should probably just. You just don't want to get into any of those awkward situations that the two of you found yourself in. So, yeah, but I just changed my name, changed my picture, and hopefully that no one knows who I am. But I just rate based on enjoyment. How much did I enjoy watching that film on that particular viewing? So, I can, and my friends used to make fun of me for it. I would, come out of, I'm not going to name anything, but let's just say some fairly middle of the road Hollywood blockbuster that you're going to forget by the next week. But I would give it 5 stars if I had a really good time. If it was a full cinema and everyone was enjoying it and it was just a good experience. That's what I've always done my ratings on. Just how much did I enjoy it?
So the experience take a lot of importance in your review, in your the ratings.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Definitely for cinema viewings, when you're seeing it with other people and just the sort of the excitement level of seeing that particular film. I think for me that's what it's about, because I don't know how you can compare certain films. How can you compare? Yeah, you could give The Brutalist 5 stars. You could give, the new Captain America film 5 stars. It doesn't really mean the same thing, does it? It's for me. It just has to be a scale of like how much do I enjoy that particular viewing.
Well, yeah, I agree about the enjoyment factor. Like, I mean, like Piotr, I think you like in my mind you're thinking too much about it. It's just like how much do I enjoy it, and I'm not thinking about like for some people they will approach, and it's fine for some people to approach it a different way. Like they will grade it because it's a new experience and it's so different from the rest. It's not about the quality; it's how much different they will grade it. And I will rate it because yeah, like at least that's my approach. How much do I enjoy the movie? Like the experience and the movie itself. And I'm guessing I'm trying to separate the experience from the movie itself. And most of the movies I watched alone anyway.
So sad. So sad.
Yeah, so sad, so sad. But yeah, I watch alone, so it's just the enjoyment factor. Like I could put like 3 stars to a movie, which I think is fine, but it really touched me at in some points. So I will add on Letterboxd at least a heart, because it's really like I felt something
Yes.
big watching the movie, but I recognize that maybe the directing or maybe the editing isn't great, maybe like the acting is off and on in some places, and so that will be my approach. I will still like love movies that are not that great, because I'm thinking of how other people could react. Like if I put 5 stars, I know that my friends are gonna see that I put 5 stars, so if they're gonna want to watch it, if I do watch it, then I know we're gonna have a conversation. But it's not good. It's like, yeah, but that scene that's really great, like, and so it's a whole conversation then. But yeah, that's at least that's my approach.
I am the same way. Like I can watch a shitty movie and be like, well, this movie sucked, but there was this one scene that was really great, and I liked that. I like that part of it. And I see a lot of shitty movies, and for the most part, there's a lot of stuff that I can like about something. But yeah, I'm gonna echo what Erwann said, and just like if I'm gonna put something like for 3 stars, that's kind of middle of the road. Like this is a fine movie. It's fine. It's not like blowing me away. And then anything up from that, it's like something that I really liked, or like this is a movie that if it's a rainy day or if it's on, I'm gonna put it on. If it's like on TV or whatever. But you know what I mean. Like it's something that you would like crave. But there are 3 star movies that I like where I heart on Letterbox compared to like. But there's also like 3 star movies and 4 star movies that I'm like, this is a great movie, but I don't ever need to see this again. Type of situation. You know what I mean? A good example, which I don't know, I don't want to get too long winded here, but we were in Puerto Rico. I used to live in Puerto Rico, and the audiences in Puerto Rico talk
Oh my god,
about the movie or whatever, but they're like,
that's a country I'm never going to visit.
terrible. It's terrible. And my wife hates. She already has like sensory problems, like to sound and whatever, especially like in a movie theater, like people eating with their mouth open, stuff like that. So like to have pretty much almost everybody in the crowd like talking and not about the movie is like drives you insane. But the experience of that was just so terrible. And the movie was fine, but because the experience was just such a shit show, and not even like everybody's like, oh, the guy's dying and whatever, like everything. It was the worst experience ever. but like something like that is like when you're basing it on the experience of something or whatever, that it it kind of muddies the waters of like, okay, well, is this a 5-star movie because it's great, or it's because the guy came and everybody got free candy, and who cares if the movie was good? It's just like, oh, the free candy was the best. You know what I mean? I think it's interesting, and it makes, to Peter's point, makes it where it's more complicated than just like, this is a good movie because of these things. There's just so many factors about it.
By the way, I've just noticed that like Erwann wouldn't put a heart to his review of Yellow Ticket. So.
See,
Noted.
bullying
Noted.
all the time. But I wanted to ask you about something you were saying just earlier, because as we've noticed, you're an obvious like film nerd. Can you talk how freely can you talk about movies out there in the world? Because as you were saying, like you're very close to many people in the industry, and so like who can you talk to about movies, like with a director or with your fellow editors?
Not with you, Erwann.
Yeah, everyone. I mean, it's not everyone. The fellow editors on Slow Horses, the director. Our director. He's a big cinephile as well. We'll go to the movies together if we're waiting for notes or whatever. It's I am a tiny fish in this huge pond, and the only thing I meant when I said that was you just need to be careful who you're talking to and remember that they might have worked. I've had experiences recently where I'm talking about a show that I thought was terrible to someone who worked on it. They were assistant editors, so they weren't offended. They were very gracious and were like, "Yeah, we know. We knew it was bad whilst we were making it." But
did you realize at that time when he or she said that?
she made it clear, and it was obvious in the sort of vibe change in the room. But so that's all I meant is you just got to be careful about that, especially sort of working in Soho in London, where pretty much everyone you bump into is probably working on something. But yeah, no, I talk to my friends. I'm still in touch with friends from university and all sorts of people online. And
are you leaving reviews on Letterboxd, or are you just doing star ratings?
both. So I have an interesting letterbox story for you here, which was that whilst I was at university, I guess it would have been 2012. I decided, so I was studying film and TV production, but I've never really been that good at the sort of theory side of things, the sort of coming out of a movie and having a take and being able to sort of break it down. And I always used to say that a film was awesome or it was crap. That was basically the only two words I would ever use. So I challenged myself to review every film that I see with two words, just to force myself to think about what I thought about it. And Letterboxd had just started then; it was in beta, and someone gave me an invite to it, and I was like, "This is perfect." So I've reviewed every film I've seen since 2012 with two words and star ratings.
Super awesome.
Yeah, super awesome, exactly.
And obviously crap.
Most of them become stuff like really fun. It's nothing groundbreaking, but at least it forces me to think a little bit about what I thought. But what's perfect about that is I do have this now really, over 10 years of like data about what I'd seen and what I thought, and something that I thought was amazing that I rewatched and didn't think was very good, and films that I don't know I've even seen that I realized, oh, I saw that in 2015.
Did you manage to go above the two words?
Sometimes I do a little like addendum. So when I'm seeing Force Awakens for the first time, that's a full-on essay, with two words at the top.
Which you have a
So,
poster of behind you, by the way.
yes, I do have Star Wars posters. I do, all over the wall.
I'm actually more likely to leave a review than a star rating.
Interesting.
It's much easier for me to give like a 5-star rating or 1-star rating than it is to give like 3.5 or 2.5 or something like that, right? And this goes back a little bit to the second issue that I have with rating movies, is that like knowing how much effort it takes to make a piece of film. It feels hard for me if something is not like obviously super bad to my taste, or obviously super awesome to my taste. it's hard for me to put a number to it because of that fact of how difficult it is to put something like a film or a mini series or something like that together.
But I mean, we all know that. We all know that it's difficult to make a movie. Extremely, like, we should be respectful of people who even manage to make one movie because it's so hard to get it done. But like, we're like um, creatures that judge very easily. So work of art, and we have that rating that's very much in our society, that we rate everything. We even rate people. And so rating like movies, and I think it's also a way to show
How many
people kind of
stars did you give me? How many? Did you
two and a
put a
half, two
heart
and a
to
half,
my name?
two and a half, but with a heart. I mean, it's like when I was in cinema school, and even before, you learn that you don't say, "Oh, that movie was so shitty." You say, I feel that, like, I didn't like that movie. I didn't like that movie. I feel that movie was shitty." So you don't say like it's not definitive, because it's not a definitive take. Like, everyone has, it's an opinion. So to me, that's not surprising that people would want to rate movies. And I mean, like, you have so many movies to watch, that sometimes I go onto Rotten Tomatoes or IMDb or other websites to know, like, what are the best movies of that director, because you have a list everywhere. And so, like, I'm not gonna watch 25 movies to know which one are the ones I should be watching. I don't have the time for it. So I know that which site, kind of which website I can trust. I mean, even if you don't like the Rotten Tomatoes kind of ratings, the percentage and all, because it's not really clear what it indicates. Well, I know, but for many people, it's just like, it means how good it is, but it's not that, the percentage on Rotten Tomatoes. It's just how much people like, how many people liked it, but they don't tell you how much they liked it.
Actually, that's something that I love on Letterboxd, that you get the distribution of the ratings. So you can see how, because there are a lot of movies that have like 2.5 average rating, but when you look at it, it seems that like most of the ratings are either on the left or on the right. So there are people that hate it and people that love it, right? And it tells you something about that film versus if it's like a bell curve, right?
It's just that it helps you, like, figure out how to, like, what movies you need to watch from a certain director, and to just, like, because we don't have time. Like, personally, I don't have time to watch that much. And I was saying, even if you don't trust Rotten Tomatoes that much, it still means something when a movie is like 15%. It's still like, and you go to the rating, and it's like, people put a true 3.5. It's like, no, I'm not going to start with that, except if it's a movie you really want to watch. You want to be a completionist, and see everything from that filmography specifically.
Well said, Erwann. I don't read reviews because I don't like reviews. Most of the time when I read them, they're kind of just like, I don't know. I feel like it's almost like an artist statement in a way. It's like, I don't want somebody to tell me how I should think about this film. I want to watch the film and make up my own decision. And me being who I am, whenever somebody gives something a shitty review, or like, this movie is shitty, then I'm like, oh, I really want to see this now, because I either want to know how shitty that movie is, or I want to be like, it wasn't as bad as you think that it was, and stuff. And usually I'm surprised, and it's very rare that I'll see a movie that I'm like, fuck this movie, or it gives me such an emotional thing where I hate it, where I'm like, it ruined my day. This movie was so bad. Rarely does that happen, but I just don't. I think it just stems from like not being told, like having somebody tell me what to think about something irks me. So I don't write it for that reason. I don't write a review, or if I do, in the same way, when I like review a book, I'll be like, the story was really good, but the way that it moved was not. So I'll be very diplomatic about my reviews, if I even give a review, rather than being like how Erwann said, like, you're not going to say this is shitty without any good reasoning about it. It's like, that's just part of, like, the proper way of critiquing something that they like teach you, or that people should know, is like, how do you critique something without, by making it that somebody can be like, okay, has value, rather than being like, this movie fucking sucked, or this movie was great. It's like, well, why? It just did. It just was. It's like, oh my god. So I don't know. There's a bigger value to it, other than, like, you have to think about it in the same way that Robert had said, like, okay, well, I have to push myself to actually think about how this movie actually made me feel, rather than just a surface level, like, one word answer or something.
I have about that. I have another question for you, Robert. Is how much, like as an industry professional, how much weight do these Rotten Tomatoes or Letterbox reviews like really have on the people like working on movies, like yourself and the people you're surrounded with?
I think it's obviously nice to get nice reviews. That feels good. And I think, I guess I can speak from with Slow Horses. Like, I was fortunate to join on the fourth season when things were sort of peaking for the show and it got some recognition and awards and it won a few things. And obviously, that's great. And, I'm working with the same team again, and that's a nice thing to celebrate. And getting nice reviews is a fun thing, but you're still then just doing the job the next day, and it's very nice from a sort of social media thing. You can post and look at this, look at what we won. Everyone's enjoying it, and I think it seems like the general sentiment is just this is really nice that people are watching and enjoying it because we everybody works so hard on it, and it's everyone likes the validation. Um, I've worked on stuff that sort of just was released and nothing really happened. Some 3-star reviews and that was that. And that is also sort of fine because you either accept it and move on, or you think to yourself, well, they just didn't understand it, and then just move on again. So I think I don't know how many filmmakers look at their own films on Letterboxd. I'm sure they do. I certainly read reviews of things that when they come out for stuff that I've worked on because I'm curious what people think. Um, but yeah, I think it just is what it is. It's very nice. But yeah, I don't think it changed the work.
Do you feel like, as an editor, you are like more protected from bad reviews, for example, than the director? You take it less at heart.
Yeah, it's 100% that thing of, Slow Horses has done really well. It would be very easy to take too much credit for that as the editor. At the same time, if it got bad reviews, it would be very easy for me to just melt away and say that it was nothing to do with me. Like my contribution is my contribution. And, like with everyone else on the film crew, you can't quantify each person's sort of contribution, can you?
I think that David Fincher said this, right? That if the movie does well, he gets more credit than he deserves, and if the movie does badly, he still gets more credit than
Yeah.
he deserves for that, right?
That's probably where I heard it. But I mean, it's so funny because I never really Rotten Tomatoes has not really been on my radar. It's not something I ever really looked at. When we're watching stuff at home here, we use Apple TV, and Apple TV gives you the Rotten Tomato ratings on everything. So it is kind of interesting to see what scores things get. Um, but yeah, you're right that getting 100% on Rotten Tomatoes just means that 100% of people chose to like it rather than not like it.
Enjoy it, but we don't know how much.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yes or no?
exactly.
Yeah, and it's Netflix does that too. Like you finish a movie, like how much like did you we have the thumbs up, thumbs down, and like 2 thumbs up, and I'm like I'm never leaving any review for Netflix because I don't like Netflix.
Well, that's like an algorithm.
Fuck you! I'm already paying for it. I'm not gonna tell you. I don't want to help the algorithm.
Reading reviews from my perspective on the yellow ticket on my short film is like I try to treat it as feedback pretty much, right? As you would like editing feedback. So it's obvious that like some of it will be good, some of it will be bad, and you should try to I think you should try to distance yourself from it, right? But I want to make a point that like it's also different for me when I'm rating a film done by someone who's closer to my level versus someone who's like already like a big league person, right?
Yeah,
So for example,
you will be less hard on someone your
I mean,
size.
yeah, I am exactly. So, for example, like your film actually, Erwann, a friend, your horror short film that
film
you
I
did.
made years and
Yeah,
years,
years ago. But I've seen it and I loved it. And if I were to give it a rating, I would give it 5 or close to 5, definitely.
And a heart. That's what kind of friend he is.
Exactly.
Erwann.
That's what kind of friend I am. But if the same thing would be directed by Guillermo del Toro, for example, I would be like,
1
he could
star.
do better. Like, it's
This is a good Erwann movie, but a bad Guillermo del Toro movie.
but you know what I mean, right? So
Yeah,
like,
yeah, I do.
yeah, so I'm judging from that perspective as well, right? So I use my ratings on Letterboxd very often as a way to appreciate like smaller filmmakers. So if I see something good that is done by by someone who's starting, I am definitely more willing to give it like a star rating and the high one.
I'm the same. I think I'm the same because when I think about like a new director coming with a new film that maybe even an indie film produced with his own money, I'm not gonna approach it the same way. I mean, I love, for example, it was not the first film, but it was kind of so brand new and was only a second film. It was Thousands of Beavers. I already told you about this
You
movie,
told,
and
yeah,
it
yeah,
was, I don't know
totally,
if
yeah.
you've seen it, Robert.
I've not seen it yet. No, I wish I
It
had.
was one of my favorite films that I watched last year. Anyway, and it's so a brand new way to approach like directing and the story and
Story,
the
yeah, yeah.
ideas that this is so brand new that I guess it may have added a star or a heart, but it's really a movie I love. And same thing for the movie Deadstream. Like it was so indie, you feel like but it's so inventive at the same time. Like I think I'm inclined to be more generous with that kind of movies.
Yes. Versus like, Dune 2 or something like that, where they really have to nail it to earn that rating, right? Which they did, by the way. By the way, guys, I just recalled a video that Jim Cummings did for Letterboxd. He did a video that's titled on YouTube, Jim Cummings reads your Letterboxd reviews. And it's such a good video, such a good one. I just wanted to mention this video, so we'll link it in the description because it's a very good one. He reads like both good and bad reviews of his films. It's fun. It's fun.
It's
Like
like Jimmy
seeing his
Kimmel's, like
reaction to it.
Jimmy Kimmel's asking his guests to read
Yeah,
like
mean tweets.
mean tweets. Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, Robert, how much you take reviews that mention editing at heart, like good or bad? Like, does it, like, if you see a bad review that mention, "Oh, the editing of this episode was terrible"? I don't know if it exists. Hopefully not.
It often doesn't get mentioned. I think just in the grand tradition of it being a bit of an invisible aspect, it's rarely mentioned. But if any review talks about sort of pacing or tension, I'm like, okay, I feel like I had a hand in some of that.
Judging editing work is very hard. Like it's super hard because you never know what's behind the curtain. And that's the thing that like sometimes a film that doesn't do the very well actually had great editing based on what was the source material and the process that they went through and all of the feedback that was contradictory from all of the different sources and so on, versus a film that does very well but actually was shot the way that someone that the director had envisioned, and it was pretty much very good from the script. An example of that would be Parasite, for example, which is like John Buchor basically Parasite, because it's like it's storyboarded from the very beginning. He storyboarded everything, and it's the final product. Is so close to.
I mean, that's what happened when you have great material.
Yes, that's what happens when you have great material. Exactly.
And I have a side question related to what you just said. Like, you said that it's hard to recognize great editing, and so Robert, you were nominated for awards as an editor, and so because it's specifically like editors who are awarding this, so these are people that do them know what happened behind the scenes, or do they just like, because I don't know how, when I see a good movie, that's kind of what Piotr was saying. When I see a good movie, I sometimes I can often recognize, oh, that scene has been manipulated a lot. Like I
Yeah,
can feel the
sometimes you
editing
can.
in a good
Yeah.
way. But like for Oscars and stuff like that, you have like best editing, but it's hard to know what's the best editing. How do you, like yourself in the industry, how do people talk about that when they see, oh, that film has been awarded like best editing, but it was like the editor didn't do much on this because it was already great, basically. Or
Yeah.
it was like a movie like, for example, A Star Is Born. I feel that there was a lot of editing behind it, a lot of editing, a lot of reshaping the scenes, a lot of finding stuff and moving scenes around. So what's your take on that?
I'm fascinated to know, to be honest. I want to know. I would love to one day be on the other side of the curtain and sort of be in those discussions and seeing like how people judge it. I think the nominations for Slow Horses, like it's got some nominations across all the sort of craft because it was a sort of zeitgeisty show a little bit, and because people enjoyed it, people are gonna see that name, Slow Horses. Oh, I enjoyed that. I'm gonna put that forward for a nomination. But then in terms of how you judge, Slow Horses. I mean, for the Ace Eddie Awards, like the other shows that I'm up against are all shows that I watched and think are amazing. Like I think they're so good. I just don't know how you choose between those. Often it's doing podcasts like this, and when you see editors on YouTube videos talking about their work or talking with avid media composer about their work through their social channels or online, that's a way for the networks or the studios to get the editors talking about the craft, so that the people that are voting can actually read a bit about what went into it. But other than that, I really don't know the specifics of how that would work.
Yeah, I'm guessing that's what you're saying. Like, because the final product is good, like people are gonna tend to try and give him as many awards as they can. Like, if it's good, it means the editing is good. So if it's in that category and I really love that movie, I'm just thinking out loud about like if I
How it
were
worked, yeah.
in these shoes, in their
Yeah.
shoes, like giving awards.
Actually, I want to mention two things. First of all, I did like a video on my channel about predictions for Oscars when Top Gun Maverick and everything, everywhere, all at once was nominated, and I predicted that one of those will take the award. And my thinking behind this was because both of these films were seamless and at the same time, I think at the edge of what could be done in that genre. I think both of these, at least, right? Like Top Gun Maverick is pretty much like a perfect film, I think, and Everything Everywhere All at Once was more a little bit more on like a breaking some rules, I guess, side.
Yeah, mixing genres.
Yeah, exactly. But interestingly, I'm actually voting for the best edited film right now for the first time in my life, because I'm a member of Polish Society of Editors, and for the first time ever, they do like the best editing of the year award, uh, and I have a right to put my vote into it. And so it's interesting because I think, like, what I'm looking at
Were you
is, again,
bribed?
Yeah, what kind of goodies did they give you?
no, but I think that one of the factors is, if you know an editor, it does have an effect on your choice, definitely, right? The other one is just like overall feeling, obviously, of the film.
I'm sorry, but if you know an editor, and I think it works both ways. Like, if the editor is an asshole, like if you think he's a bad person, you're not gonna vote for his movie.
Sure, exactly. It works both ways, for sure, right? So, like, it's as, like, with directors hiring us, right? You have to have that like connection. They have to like you in order to hire you. If someone doesn't like you, there is a very, very, very low chance that they will want to work with you, right? You have to be like, Klaus Kinski, for example, and Werner Herzog, right? Or, I mean, they liked each other, I'm sure, but they hated each other as well, I guess. So I don't know. That's my 2 cents.
As a Star Wars film fan and series fan, because you are a big Star Wars fan, right?
Yes. How did you know?
We have just to watch the surroundings and watch your blue sky, and we know. So, how do you feel about like these Star Wars fans doing their reviews and kind of shitting all over Star Wars and giving Star Wars fans a bad name?
It's the same with all the big franchises, right? Is that it attracts a lot of people, and usually you see the extremes online. So you see the people that love everything, and you see the people that hate everything. And so I try to sort of just steer clear of all that stuff, and I just enjoy the shows and the films that they make. I think they're brilliant, and I think it also goes back to what you were saying earlier about the filmmaking and the craft. Like anything Star Wars, whether you liked the story or not, you know, there's so much work that goes into that. Every single thing on screen is designed. Every single shot is VFX in some way, probably. There's just so much to enjoy from that aspect that it would have to be a really dreadful piece of storytelling for me to not enjoy something Star Wars. And I think, as I say, the extremes are online. And I had like they every few years Star Wars they do like a big convention. They do the Star Wars celebration thing. Yeah, and I'd never been before, but they did, it was in London a few years ago, and that was lovely because that was like a room full of like I was going to say normal people. I guess we're not normal people, but like a room full of like-minded people who were just there because they enjoyed it, and they know that it's not the be all and end all of the world. There's much more important things going on, and this is just something to enjoy. And that reminded me that what you see on the internet is usually just people getting way too specific about things. And it's the sort of reviews that people give where they're basically comparing the film or the TV show to what they had in their head. And I do find that really frustrating because I'm sorry, but you're not going to be making this stuff because you're not making this stuff. So it's fine for you to have your opinions about what should happen, but that shouldn't judge what you've got in front of you rather than what you expected to get. I do find that frustrating.
I would say that that's kind of what I think about with reviews and people on YouTube, influencers or whatever, who are reviewing sites or reviewing movies or whatever, because because unless they are an editor or they know that's okay, then they kind of have an idea of what that is. But then you've got a whole lot of other people who just want to give their opinion and either shit all over something, and more so the shitting on something compared to like actually giving good reviews. But it's like there's an old adage of it's a disparaging quote or whatever phrase about teachers, that like an art teacher is an artist. It's basically for those who can't. So they couldn't be an artist, so they're an artist, an art teacher. And I feel like with reviewers online about that are shitting all over something, that it's kind of the same thing. They only see the surface level thing, and as you said, they're like comparing something to what they had in their head, or the Monday morning quarterback were like, well, why didn't they do this? It's so obvious that they should have done it this way, and I know, and blah blah blah. And you're just like, oh my god, shut up.
Yeah. Well, that's a part of the whole thing, isn't it? And that is something that you see on the review sites as well, the letterbox and things. Is part of it is about like people cultivating their online personalities, and you're sort of curating your films. It's very important to some people what films are in your top four favorites, and what is my sort of take on these films, and I'm going to write something that's a 1-star review for this popular film because it's going to get me some attention and stuff like that. So yeah, that side of it can be a little bit cringe, and especially when you start to see people posting that they've seen films months before they've come out because they've gone to some fancy film festival, and you're like, come on, just
Yeah.
chill out.
or like because I read a lot of books or listen to a lot of books, and there's always like books that haven't come out yet that people are rating already, and it's just like, you don't even know what this book is about, and you're still giving it like 4 3 all these different reviews and writing a review, and it's just like, oh my god, shut the fuck up.
We released an episode yesterday about like cutting action, and because like Ricardo is cutting a movie, a feature film, um, and there's a couple of action scenes in it, and we're talking how to make these scenes better, and what are the things that we can do. If we can get like one tip from you when cutting action, what's the one thing that comes to your mind, like how you make
For
an
cutting
action?
action.
Could be general, and could be about one very specific thing that you do when cutting action.
I mean, it's sort of advice that could apply to any type of scene, I guess. But like, point of view can be really important with action and thinking about that, especially if you get a lot of coverage. There's a lot of car chases that I've done in this film, and sort of fight sequences, and you can play it from any angle. You can play it from the people watching the fight. You can play it from the lead character side, from the villain. And I think one thing that's been helping me, because I'm doing a sort of big action thing for Slow Horses at the moment, and there's just so much material, is sort of thinking about literally every single second of of like the 10-minute sequence, like whose point of view is it from? So, okay, I'm going to be with this person, and then they look over here, I'm going to be with this person. I think that helps reduce the chaos of an action scene sometimes if you can sort of think about whose point of view it's from. Hopefully that helps. It's not very crafty,
Hey,
is it,
that's
the
great.
answer? But
But it means like so you'd stay with the right person.
exactly. Like talking a really specific. I've got a scene where someone comes into a room. They're a killer. it's a huge room and they're looking through all these props to try and find someone, and it's shot from behind them, in front of them. You've got their point of view, you've got the person they're looking for, their point of view. You could play it from any side, but I think the tension comes from, for me, with that example scene, who is, is this person going to find this other person? So I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to be with this point of view. I'm going to be on them. I'm going to wait until they look over there, and I'm going to, it's those are the ways that I get through huge action scenes where there's a million ways to do it and lots of cool shots. But you
What
can't.
about just spoiled you the new season of, of Slow
Slow
Horses?
horses. Somebody is trying to kill somebody else. Spoilers.
I can close with one final review thought, because you've mentioned you've been at the screening of the feature, right, yesterday, and during such a screening, you generally get very good feedback about the film. And I usually experienced it myself. Recently experienced it myself with my short film. We had a screening of it like 2 weeks ago, and when I hear people talking about my film at the premiere of it, I will like divide everything by two, because like obviously we
Yes.
people will be nice. Obviously people
Yeah.
will be nice. So from that point of view, actually like online reviews are somewhat more believable, right? Because like they are unfiltered. People don't care about what they write online, and it's good thing and a bad thing at the same time. So it's up to us to filter through it and get like value from it as like a real valuable feedback, rather than just something that is toxic or just praising without good reason.
I think at the end of the day, like, it's only a good thing, sites like Letterboxd, like, it is fun to see what other people think. And like you say, when you find people that sort of align with your views on certain films, it's nice to see what they're watching, what they're recommending.
It's people watching movies, and it's becoming more rare nowadays. Like, people watch less movies, people watch more TV shows, and are not even focused on what we're watching. They're on the cell phones. They're not concentrated on what they're watching. And so, even if people leave bad reviews, it's still, I think it still needs to be celebrated that they are watching stuff. They are watching the stuff that
a
are
good
being
point.
done, and they are taking the time to even if it's only like 15 seconds, to to rate what they're watching. And I think that's nice to see.
Definitely.
Let me just shout out for the TV version of Letterboxd that I use, called Serialized. I don't know if you've heard of it. SERIALIZD.
I did hear about it. Not aware
Yeah,
about it.
it's literally run by one person, and it is aesthetically a sort of Letterboxd clone. But there's a huge community on there, and I've started sort of logging TV episodes as well. And
Robert, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks again, Robert.
Thank you a lot.
thank you so much. It's been really fun.
Please like and subscribe. So, we always like to hear from you guys and girls. Also, whatever platform you listen to us on, please leave us a review and also leave comments for it. We love to find comments and read them and find out about
Do
it.
it.